What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TCG Empire YouTube channel. Today we are going over Trash Deck Thursday. If you're new here, you're not sure what it is. It's where we take the deck of the week and pair it against its worst possible matchup. This week we did talk about Red-Green Law in the OP03 format. So today we're going to go over a deck that should give it a good matchup and something that you should really be able to kind of go against. Now, I will warn you guys real quick, I don't have any gameplay to support this, so it's all theory-based, but I'm going to be going back over the aspects of, how the OP02 format was and things like that. Just, I can't find anybody that's been, wanting to play Law. I've asked people, nobody's kind of done it, and so it's just been kind of a big long hassle. So we're going to go over the cards and talk about it in general. So we are playing Zoro. The reason why I'm playing Zoro is just because with Zoro's ability to give the plus 1k power, it can really help you to hit numbers, especially if you're trying to attack into things like the law blockers and things like that. They can really get quite annoying. And so this Zoro list is more built towards kind of depleting the board of resources and going from there. So of course we have 4 Otama. 4 Otama is in here just so you can give minus 2k and then go from there. And then we do have 4 Nami. These are the searchers you're guaranteed to play. These are pretty standard. I do have 2 Nico Robin in the list, with most lists not playing Whitebeard anymore. Nico Robin is a good curve option, and it does give you the chance to be able to swing for 6k with Zoro's buff, and also pop something of 3k, so you can actually whittle down the board. And then we do have 4 Rush Zoro. This is so that we can keep applying constant pressure. 4 Curly, just so that way we can search our 1-drops, which we'll get into more later. And then I put Vista back in the list. Most lists aren't running Vista anymore, but Vista being paired with Marco as well as Nico Robin can actually swing for super big consistency aspects of being able to clear the board. Since Law tends to play a lot of baby blockers and then they usually have 1 or 2 big characters on board, it means that the Vista can actually deal with those. And then you can kind of go from there. Then we have 4 Makino. Again, this is just to buff up your 1-drop so that way you can do more within your turn, so that way you can swing for higher amounts of damage, which means your opponent has to combo more, or potentially they have to, let an attack go through because they can't combo it. Then we have Izo. Izo's in here so that we can search for the Vista as well as the Marco. Just super solid at what it's supposed to do. And it can also be, amplified by things like Makino. And you also just can turn it into something where it actually is hitting for big damage. And then we have Buggy. The reason why I still have Buggy in here is because it does search events. And in the situation where you need to bring your Marco back, it gives you the events to look for. But also within it, it means that you have the ability to really search through your deck and kind of get the cards you need. And it being 3k power, it doesn't take as much Dawn to invest to be able to swing. So it's kind of the similar situation with the Sunnykun. It's a 1-drop, 3000 power. You put 1 Dawn, it turns to 5000. So it makes everything kind of work out great. And then the other star of the deck, aside from Vista when it comes to board disruption, is Marco. The reason I have Marco in here paired with Vista is because if you're forced to go second, once you hit 8 Dawn, you can Marco into Vista. And it means that you can really disrupt the board, and with Marco being able to put itself back onto the board, if for some reason it gets KO'd, it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent to really deal with it. And then from there, you can actually kind of go and clear the board some more if they don't want to take damage. And then, of course, we have Brook. Again, Brook's in here. It's mainly a 2k counter, but the on-play does become beneficial within certain scenarios. So it can actually amplify pressure, especially with cards like Monkey D. Luffy that we've talked about. Monkey D. Luffy is really good against Law because with them having a board filled with blockers, they'll tend to take life early on to establish hand control, and then they'll play board control with 1,000,001 blockers. So when they're sitting at 1 to 2 life, there's not really much that you can do. Because of their board presence, but being able to go Vista, Luffy attached to Dawn, or being able to go Marco, Luffy, next turn have a big body with Luffy on board, it's really good. It's not just for the sense that you can get through blocker with the Dawn ×2. It's also because it applies rush, and it's a 7k attacker with Zoro's ability, and being able to apply that kind of pressure means that they're going to probably burn blockers. So overall, it's super solid. And then, as I said, in the late game scenarios, it means that you can actually use the Dawn ×2 with rush in order to kind of go for game and kind of secure the win. Then we have Red Hawk. There's 2 Red Hawk in here. It is a super solid counter. There's not really many 4k power or less characters that you're going to get rid of aside from blockers, which you would normally get rid of with Vista and stuff, but it does help to kind of amplify that board pressure and helping you to do what you need to do against Law, which is focus on getting rid of their board. And then you have 4 guard points in here just because it's a good counter, but it also helps Marco to be able to pop back to the field. And when it comes to the numbers that, Law likes to go for, they tend to swing for 7k unless they're going for lethal. So the guard point is really helpful. And then you can also correct the damage with the 12 2k counters that are in the deck, being Brook, Otama, and Marco. So I think that generally is it. The reason why I picked this Zoro list is just because in previous testing and previous formats, before we got extra cards like, Marco that does the same effect as Vista, when you went for maximizing board control with Zoro, it was always really good into Law. The only thing you had to worry about was certain situations where you didn't have jet pistols and things like that. Now, we don't have jet pistol in this deck, but the reason for that is because you do have a multitude of aggro plays you can do early on. Again, with multiple Vista and multiple Marco and being able to play them early on, it means that you can try and control the board faster, which in turn means that they can't shambles as early. So it's super solid. The game plan against Law is basically that you need to play board control as much as possible, because when you're doing board control, it means that they're risking the potential for you to deal damage to their life, which again is the win con that you go for. But when you're diminishing their life, or not their life, sorry, when you're diminishing their board, it means that they're going to have to play cards from their hand, which means that they lose hand advantage to refill their board. And then the reason why they want to always have their board filled is so that way they can shambles. Otherwise, they have a leader that basically has no ability. It's just a 5k vanilla. So being able to force them to continuously play cards from their hand means that they won't have access to as many cards to combo with, or they're going to be kind of dropping cards that they really don't want to, such as multiple Makino or playing Otamas down that they might not otherwise want to play, just so that way they can get the shambles ability going. Now, they can pop them back into their hand, but the more board control you play, the more you can kind of whittle them down. It's good to go aggro against Law, but there's a certain point where once you go aggro, you're not going to really be able to go aggro as much anymore. You're going to have to be deflecting attacks, and then you're going to have to be focusing on their board, because the minute they keep bouncing and recycling searchers like Nami or Bonnie, you're going to have a tough time, because they're going to have continuous support in their hand. So you need to force them to play those down and not be able to bounce them back, and then you can get rid of them and go from there. So overall, that's really the main idea. Using this in the OP02 format, it at least was super solid. I'm not sure about OP03. Again, I'll try and get a gameplay at some point, maybe upload it on a weekend. But as for right now, this is kind of the game plan that I have going forward with Zoro into a Law heavy meta. So as always, thank you guys for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Otherwise, I will catch you guys in tomorrow's episode of Final Standing Friday.